What's up, Marcos Villegas, Fight Up TV, powered by stagefront VIP, being joined with Kenny Porter, who just finished a few hours ago an intense workout in this Vegas heat, 120 degrees.
Yes, not only that, then after that, I took about an hour and a half break, and I had swim lessons that I had to give to two young porters, Sean's sons. So Sean brought his two sons over, and I gave them swim lessons for about an hour in the pool. So after that, whew, yeah, I need to sit down, hydrate, get some air.
That's great, man. I'm actually jealous because I'm 40 and I don't have kids yet, and like I would like to meet my grandkids one day when they're like adults, or to see that, and like timing wise, I'm like, oh, I might not see that because I'm so old now.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't plan to be a young father. I was, and so now I'm a young G father. They call me Poppy. So um, yeah. So those are my little G man.
That's great, man.
Yes.
Give me when we look at what happened over the weekend, and given the performance that Terence Crawford put on, what are your initial thoughts? What's your takeaway of what we saw over the weekend?
Well, since you mentioned his name, congratulations to Terence Crawford. Um, I bow down to him. I actually thought Errol would win the fight, and Terence, like myself, and lots of other people, he has made us all believers. He put on a spectacular performance, second to none in my recent memory. Um, the last 10, 15 years, off the top of my head, I can't recall anyone putting on that type of performance at that high level. When we talk high level fighter against the lower guy, yeah, we've seen it. But when we talk about elite against elite, we haven't seen that type of performance put on um, the way he did it. So much respect to him. I am truly a believer. In my eyes now, pound for pound, the top fighter in the world.
You being a trainer, Kenny, what are some things that really stuck out to you about the fight with either Errol or Terence?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was caught up in the moment. I was at the fight. I'm waiting to go back and look at it on TV and analyze it to give better understanding and clarity of what I seen. But in the moment, Terence just looked like he was in such great control of every round. He was in control of every minute of every round. He was in control, in my eyes, of every exchange that they had. There was never a point that I thought he wasn't in control. When he was on defense, he was in control. Obviously, when he was on offense, he was in control. He he looked like a world class fighter, and he is a world class fighter. And pound for pound, in my eyes, the best fighter in the world. His jab was spectacular. I saw the first thing that I saw that he could hit Errol whenever he wanted to with the jab. And everything else behind that worked behind the jab, everything else just came together so perfectly. His offense and his defense was seamless. They worked together. They just came together from one to the other. And his boxing IQ, it appeared to me, and this is not to take anything away from Errol. He was actually the guy that I thought was going to win the fight. Not to take anything away from him. Mad props, mad respect, huge amount of respect to Errol and his trainer and his camp and his team. Um, they just ran up against another guy that night. It was totally his night. But another thing that I saw from Terence, it looked like his boxing IQ just elevated to a level that the other guy couldn't compete. It was a total domination on his behalf.
Yeah, after the fight, Kenny, like this is only probably maybe happened to me one other time, but not to the extent, just given the opponent that Errol was. But I just kind of looked at the ring and I was just like, holy crap, what did I just see? And I was like, I saw something tonight special, like so special. Like I'm always gonna remember like how I felt, where I was just like, wow, oh my God, like he just did that. Like the other time was when Mayweather outclassed Robert, but like Robert and Errol, two different levels, and that's
Two
why I
different
think,
levels. That's what I mean.
yeah.
Two guys who were both elite level. And that's the exact way I felt after the fight. I was looking around like, did this just happen? I was thinking to myself, did this just happen? I turned to the person next to me, looking at them. I didn't say it, but I'm looking at them like, this really happened? It was like I was in a state of disbelief, but at the same time, I was in a like, man, you just seen something that no other fighter has done in recent memory, in my recent memory, you know, recent memory, like 10, 15 years. I haven't seen that type of high level guy destroy someone like that. And he just really totally dominated every round.
Now he did, and there's a rematch clause in the contract. I believe it. If it does happen, it's going to go up to 154. What are your thoughts, Kenny, on a rematch happening between the two, given the result we saw with them in the first fight?
Well, from a personal standpoint, there's the personal and then there's the business side of it. From the personal standpoint, personally, that's not a fight I want to see Errol in again. Just me personally. From the business standpoint, I would love to see him in that fight. And I know he's got a chance, not a chance. I know he will do better than in the first fight. But I just felt that um, a lot of the things that happened to him in that fight will change the way that he approaches boxing now. And it'll change the way that his trainer has to approach it. It's going to change the way people close to him perceive what they're looking at in him. They're going to have to look at things closer. You have no choice but to, be concerned, because he took a lot of shots in that fight, and a lot of the punches were flush. They were solid. They were, there wasn't a lot of shots where you saw him pair them or block them off. There were, flush shots. So you have to be aware, at least I would, of everything from this point on, moving forward. You have to look at everything, and not to minimize or take away from his effort. His effort was unbelievable. Errol's effort, never quit, never stop, never back up, never, he came forward the whole entire fight. He just ran up against a better man that night. And moving forward, me personally, I wouldn't want to see that. If he decides to go for that and they make that fight at 154, I know he's going to do better. And he believes in himself. He's a warrior. He believes in himself, and he believes he can beat Terence. And I believe that, that opportunity should be there for him if everything else is in place, in terms of his health. If there's nothing coming from this last fight coming into the next one that backs that up. Because we don't know, and I know, but we don't know exactly what happened tonight. But I know from being in those lockers, from being in those dressing rooms, that after these fights over, guys will have to be seen by doctors, not just on site, but they'll go to the hospital. And I've seen guys win fights. They're the victorious guy. They're the guy, their hands are raised, and they're still going to the hospital.
I just spoke to Virgil Hunter actually, and he kind of shared the same opinion that what you expressed. Like, hey, I would wait. The rematch shouldn't happen this year. I would
Yeah.
get checked out, get every single battery of tests to just make sure, because if you go into this other fight, some bad stuff could happen if there is something wrong and you don't get it checked out.
Definitely not this year. This year to me is over with. This is the end of the year. The year ended. 2022 ended that night. For actually, even for the guy that won the fight, because his preparation for this fight, in order for him to perform at the level that he performed at, he had to put everything into it. And he now needs some time to recover from that as well. Physically, I think Terence was fine. I didn't think that he took any um, punishment or any shots that I thought, man, Terence might have got rocked right there. I didn't think that at all. But there's an emotional component to this. There's a mental component to this. There's other things that are no longer in balance. You need physical balance, mental balance, emotional balance, nutritional balance, um, spiritual balance. Let's talk about the nutritional balance just for a moment. If either guy, not just saying that one or the other, but both guys came into this fight having to lose weight, having to monitor how they lost the weight, having to try to maintain strength at the same time of losing weight. And if there was anything that was taken away from them in losing the weight and not being able to maintain the strength, and then there's also the hydration that needs to be maintained, right? And so, oh, I'm hydrating and the weight is going up. So now I got to stop hydrating as much, right? But I'm losing my strength too, right? And so we're not firing on all cylinders, so to speak, going into this fight. Well, after this is over with, you're the victor, but you need to recover from that as well, because you really depleted your body to prepare, and then you depleted your body in the match. So Terence being victorious, I'm quite sure still there was an area in his body that he gave a lot of himself that he needs to recover from as well, emotionally, mentally. He's got a family he wants to go back and just relax and be with. So I'm pretty sure the year is over with for him as well. I don't know what the plan was. I say this about all coaches, all trainers. I don't criticize any of them. They all have the same mindset. They want their guys to win. They want their guys to be successful. Whatever that coach is thinking, whatever his game plan is coming into a fight to try to win a fight, he put 100% into it to try to make sure that his fighter was successful. He went up against something that he hadn't seen from his fighter before as well. And, for lack of words, he wasn't prepared for that. But that's not me being, criticizing him, but he wasn't prepared for that. I don't know what they're saying because I don't read it. I haven't read it. It's not something I like to do. I don't like to see either guy, the trainer or the fighter, put down, because they put everything into this, everything that they have, their whole life, everything on the line. They fight for their families. They fight for their life. They fight for their physical well-being. You're literally fighting to protect your life in that ring. Someone's trying to, if they can, incapacitate you, take you out, hurt you as badly as you can, stop you completely, immobilize you. So you're fighting to protect yourself from that, and you're trying to do the same thing to them. So I don't know what the game plan was. I do have some thoughts on how long the punishment that Bud was handing out, how long that lasted. I think that, in my eyes, me personally, that lasted too long. I think I know without a doubt that I wouldn't have let it go that far. It's not
Yeah.
necessary at
After
that point.
the
I don't.
the fourth or the after the two knockdowns in the round, right? Is that around when you would have stopped it, in your opinion?
Well, definitely there, but I'm saying like in after 6 rounds into a fight and you haven't won them, there's no way you can come back on these scorecards. You can't come back. You need a knockout to come back, and you you have a trained eye as a trainer that you can see your guy is not going to be able to come back from this. He's down too far on the cards. He doesn't have the pop on the punch. He's not able to hit this guy with anything substantial to change the direction of this fight. So as each round goes on, he's just taking more and more punishment. And I would have definitely said, that's enough, son. We had enough. That's it. We're done.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I saw online was, yeah, maybe the fight could have or should have been stopped a little bit earlier. But you know what? I don't know who told me this. I want to say Freddie, but I'm not sure. And I remember he told me, he's like, yeah, like at the end of the day, it's the fighter that wins fights. Like we could do everything we can as trainers, prepare them, put a right plan, but at the end of the day, it really is up to the fighter to win the fight.
Yeah, that's true. And it's also up to the trainer to look and say, my guy's not going to win this fight.
Mm.
Right? Not the same thing, but I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Of something that I can place in a mindset. I went to my little cousin's AAU game the other day. Shout out to little Carson Jones. His team's from Ohio. They come all the way out here to Vegas and they take on all of these teams from all over the nation. Now, these guys are just 11, 12 years old. But they played 3 games. In each game, they're beating each team by 50 points.
Oh, wow.
Right? They're beating teams by 50 points. And these kids are just exceptional. They're hitting 3-pointers. They're doing layups. The center's doing layups. The center's doing 3-pointers. The point guard's hitting layups. The point guard's hitting 3-pointers, right? They're taking the pass through their legs and laying it up, and everybody's taking turns doing this, like they're doing layup drills, right? And it's getting to a point where it's just ridiculous how many points they're beating these teams by, right? So we get to the championship, and they're doing the same thing again, right? And there was only a few minutes left in the game. And the coaches just decided, you know what? No more timeouts are allowed. Nobody's stopping unless somebody get hurt. Just let this clock run. And let's get this over with, right? It's not the same thing, but at that point in time when you just can't come back from it, let's just stop it or get it over with. And the only way they could do it was to just let the clock run through, just keep it going, and it's over with, right? In this particular situation, it's time to stop this clock. Because the longer this goes on, the more chances my guy's going to get hurt. And, it's a cliche. It's been said 1,000 times, but I'm in agreement with it. You go into that ring and you leave a part of you in that ring when you leave. You leave a part of yourself in that ring. So I could point to myself when I boxed and the different things that I did. And, I remember a tournament in 1992. I want to try to get to the Olympic trials, and I'm in an amateur tournament. And if I win this regional, I get to the nationals. You get to the nationals, you get a chance to, you got a chance, right? I dislocate my shoulder in the fight. During the fight, and I'm such a competitor, they like, the fight's over. I said, hell no, the fight's not over. I'm winning. I've been winning. I've beaten him the first 2 rounds, and at this time it was only 3 rounds. I got one more round in me. I can beat him. Just put my arm back in there. Just put it back in there, right? And they like, no, the fight's over. The doctor looks at me, and my corner and my coach looks at me and says, over. I said, no, it's not over. Put it in. They pop it in, right? This has never happened to me before. I go back out there and I fight southpaw. I win the fight. Well, as soon as my adrenaline goes down, the arm swells up. I can't compete in the championship tomorrow. It's over with for me. But in that moment, all I cared about was winning. But it was actually over with, even if I won. And it was over with when I won. And then it was pretty much after that, moving forward, it was over because that shoulder wouldn't allow me to do the things I used to do anymore. So I lost a piece of me in that fight that night. But mentally, I was such a strong guy mentally that I said, put it back in and I'll fight Southpaw. I never did it before. And then that's how I learned how to fight Southpaw. And that's how I learned how to teach Southpaws how to fight. But, right, we leave a part of us in there. This shoulder will never be the same. Never again. But, you know, we leave a part of us in that ring when we fight at these levels, whatever level you at, you know, something's going to happen. You know, guys on the basketball court, they hurt their knees. Guys on the football field, they get injuries and they walk away from these sports and they've got something that stays with them the rest of their life. So the most important thing is to make sure your guy is safe. If you can protect him, make sure he's safe.
Oh yeah, totally agree, 110% on that, Kenny. You know, you crafted a game plan to try to counter Crawford when Sean fought Terence. We saw what he did last night. Both me and you were in awe in that performance. In the pantheon of fighters from past and present, how good is Terence in your opinion?
I really would like to go back and look over some of the other fighters, you know, the Trinidads and the De La Hoyas that fought at 47 and all of that. But in recent memories, the only guy that I see that was at that level or better was Mayweather in recent memory for me. And you know, not to say that, you know, there was a lot of great fighters, you know, the Trinidads and the De La Hoyas and, you know, the Hopkins and, you know, all of these guys, there was a lot of great fighters, right? You know, not to take anything away from Sugar Ray Leonard, Duran, Hearns, Hagler, unbelievable fighters. But in recent memory, the only guy that I think stands out like him is Floyd. And what I seen last night or the other night definitely makes me believe that he would have given that guy a run for his money.
Yeah,
Definitely a run
I
for
don't
his money.
think, I don't think me, you, or anyone else disagrees on that. And I've talked today. You know, I talked to Virgil. I talked to Boom Boom Mancini, who says hi to you, by the way. He
Yeah,
made sure
from
to,
Ohio.
yeah,
Boom,
yeah.
boom.
He made sure to be like, hey, tell Kenny I said hi. But you know, all of them
Amazing guy.
said these guys would have not these guys, but Terence would have competed. He would have been in the fight with all those guys.
I see him. Yeah, definitely, 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 definitely right there with anybody. I must say, I must say, I met Terence when he was about 14 years old. And he has just gone above and beyond anything. And I'm gazing off because I'm remembering him as a 14-year-old at the national tournaments, all the way up to where he's at now. You know, Bud Crawford, undisputed welterweight champion of the world. And I am so impressed with what he's done, his body of work, how long he's been at this, how long he's been working at this to get to this point, this pinnacle that he's on right now. He deserves every accolade that he receives. Mad props and respect to him, to his trainer, Bomac, the other guys that are in the corner with him as well. Um, Everyone that's been behind him, his family, everyone. It's an effort that he led the charge on, but all of these people had to be a piece to that puzzle to make this happen the way it did. And his trainer, being so humble, known that guy for 15, 20 plus years, being so humble, even in the victory. And I felt that, you know, all of those guys deserve that. And that's why he made sure that he said all of their names, the assistant trainers, the other trainers, the strength condition coaches, dietitians, nutritionists. I mean, it takes all of that to compete at that high level and get your fighter in there and win and get out of there safely.
Yeah, and you know there was a lot of emotions too coming out from them, and rightfully so. Uh, especially in the post fight where Terence had brought up like, hey, they said this about me and this about me. They try to dismiss me. Da 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 da. I just want my just due. I just want my credit. And when he was saying that, I just kind of was thinking like, why did it take so long for us to give him that? And I'm like, well, okay, the opponents was a big criticism of Terence over the years, but he didn't really have control over that. That was more like a promoter issue and everything. But yeah, he got it on the biggest stage, that's for sure.
Yeah, and another thing about that, like the business of boxing, it kind of decides, it picks these guys who it's going to get behind, and it's going to move and get them to these levels. And he wasn't that guy that it picked early in his career. He wasn't the guy that they got behind early in his career and said, all right, we're going to move you and get you here and do all of these things for you. And whatever those reasons were, he used all of that as energy. And again, I give him all the respect that he deserves and more for persevering through all of that, because it would make a lot of people give up. It would make a lot of people, not saying that he would have quit but it would have made a lot of guys just say, you know what, I won enough. I'm undefeated, or I won this championship at this weight class, and I won that championship, or I beat this fighter, I beat that fighter. I'm just going to chill. He never did. He kept fighting and rising to the top to where he's at right now. And they should really, moving forward, acknowledge that the business itself, whoever is with him, should get behind him and push forward for that.
In your opinion, Kenny, does Terence stay undefeated, or does a guy like Jaron Ennis provide a big challenge for him?
I believe a Jaron Ennis would provide a big challenge for him. Absolutely. No doubt. A very, very talented guy. Again, a guy who has a lineage in boxing. His dad, his brothers, professional fighters. He's got a family of fighters behind him. Everyone being a piece in that puzzle that makes Jaron Ennis. But on Terence end, just me personally, from the business standpoint, it doesn't look like that would be Terence's fight for me. It's not a winning situation. He beats this young guy, and he was supposed to. He doesn't, and it doesn't go his way. And Terence is 36 now. He's not 26. So by him getting to this pinnacle later in his career, he's got to make decisions that are solely based on what's best for Terence. Advantages for Terence, not disadvantages in age or disadvantages in size or disadvantages in anything else. So yeah, Jaron Boots, he would definitely be an opponent that will give him a run. Yeah, and be in a hell of a fight with Terence Crawford.
Mm. Given what you said, then like, what's the next biggest fight for Terence in your opinion?
I don't know, other than, what would make sense from my standpoint, but it's just reaching out, grabbing something. It's not me looking at the whole entire landscape of welterweight division or other division, but Charlo at 54. But he's already busy, right?
Yep, with Canelo, and who
He's
knows what
already
happens in that fight too.
He's already busy. He's already busy. So maybe he takes a look at the winner of that, and then he says, "Hey, let's make something happen."
I think he was asked like, "Hey, would you fight Canelo?" And he said, "I'm not going up to 168. No way."
So Charlo's moving up to 68 for the fight.
Well, the fight's at 68. I talked to Derek a few weeks
ago. And it's not even the bigger brother.
No, yeah, it's the 54 chart. It's Mel.
It's the 54.
Yeah, and
so
Derek
he
told me
lose his belts by moving up, right?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't lose his belts. So he still maintains his belts. He could come back. Don't know. But yeah, if he comes back down to 54, you don't know who wins the fight yet. You know, hypothetically or speculation, if Charlo wins and then comes back down, that's a heck of a fight for Terence. I just think risk and reward with Boots, the risk is greater than the reward for Bud. And now Bud should be rewarded in everything he does.
In your opinion, how does a Mel versus Crawford fight play out, and who would you give the favor to based on paper what they've shown?
Based on paper, it's Bud. Based on my eye test, what I've seen here just the other night, it's Bud. Charlo is definitely in the fight and gonna make it an exciting fight. It's an exciting fight. There is an unknown factor there, and it's a very exciting fight. I believe it would be an exciting fight. There is the unknown that we don't know what happens when Bud moves up to 154 and he's fighting a guy who's been at 54 for a number of years. We don't know, but initially my thoughts are Bud. As a matter of fact, if you got King Kong or Godzilla, my thoughts now are Bud. Okay, if you found Bigfoot and you brought him out from wherever he's been, I got Bud.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying. Like, I would imagine you see him retiring undefeated unless he just stays around too long.
I see him retiring undefeated. I mean, if it's a Mack truck coming down the street and he's head up with it, I got Bud. I don't see nobody beating Bud. Bud he's made a true believer out of me, and a lot of people in the business and the networks. Everyone should be a believer now.
Oh no, for sure.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
more
In
than
my
that.
eyes, pound for pound, best boxer in the world.
No, yeah, but I think it's a no-brainer. Obviously, just given what he did to another pound for pound top tier fighter.
Right.
You know, in no way he looks like he has special power. He's a great fighter. More than likely, probably will go down in the Hall of Fame. He disconstructed another great fighter in Stephen Fulton, but Fulton wasn't on the top 5 pound for pound like Errol was.
Yeah,
You got to give it to Terence.
that
Terence has to be number one. It's like a no brainer.
Don't forget, Errol Spence is an amazing fighter. Errol Spence was and is an amazing fighter. He beat a lot of very good fighters, great fighters, to become world champion. And I've known him for quite a while. I've traveled all over the world with Errol, and I've seen him up close and personal. And that was very hard for me to watch. It really was hard for me to see him losing the way he was losing to someone. And it was bittersweet because I love Terence, but I was betting on the other guy. I thought the other guy had this, but moving forward, if you're telling me that it's anybody, at any point in time, I got Bud.
What would you tell Errol after all of this? I know, like you mentioned, he means a lot to you. We don't know how he is, if he's feeling a little down. He looks like,
I'm sure he's feeling down.
Yeah.
Anybody would be. I tell him the things he already knows about himself. He's a great fighter. He's a great father. He's a great person. If you ever knew him or talked to him just as a person, not as about boxing or not just if you just was just hanging out with him, being around him, just a really good person from that standpoint, that you gravitate to people like that. A regular guy, he's a country kid, he's a Texas kid. He's just a regular person from that standpoint. But, just take the time off and, enjoy the family time that you have now. Don't rush, don't second guess yourself of who you are or who you've been all these years, because you've been an undefeated champion for a reason. Not to take away from anything that Bud did that night, but Errol is a great fighter. It's just this guy elevated himself to another level, And on that night, it wasn't Errol's night. And that's what I would say. Wins and losses, they come with being bosses. So Errol was a boss. The other guy was a boss. And at some point in time, someone moves on. And it just happened. And you need to get back to being, just being yourself. And if he decides to do this again, he's going to be great. If he doesn't decide to do this again, he's still great. He's a Hall of Fame fighter, no doubt about that. You just ran into another guy that's a Hall of Fame fighter as well, and it's just he had an unbelievable night. I couldn't believe, and this is not to be negative towards the guy that didn't get the victory. You notice I'm not going to even say anything like the guy that didn't get his hand raised. But the other guy just did some things that were just unbelievable to this guy who was a great fighter. Errol Spence is a great fighter. He's an excellent fighter. This guy raised the bar even higher and did things that just were unbelievable and left you at the end of it saying, man, did that really happen that way? Yeah, I shook my head a couple of times. 2 or 3 times I shook my head. Took me a couple of days to, wow, man, I didn't, I did not expect that.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm still just in amazement over how he was able to do what he did.
He made it look easy.
It's a performance of a lifetime, that's for sure. A performance for the ages. Yeah.
I mean, I want to watch it on television, but it almost didn't look like he broke a sweat, Marcos. I'm pretty sure he never had to take a deep breath. I'm positive of that.
This is
you know
gonna
how they
be
say in boxing, you hear him say, he got my second win.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, he didn't have to get a second win.
This is like the legend of Crawford. Like, we're always going to talk about, no, for reals. We're going to talk
that's a
about,
great way to put it. The legend of Crawford.
No, for reals. Like, this is it. Like, that performance is going to be, where were you that night when Bud did this? What were you thinking?
Well, you're never going to forget.
Yeah.
Wherever you were at, if you were at the fights, if you were at a bar, if you were at a fight party, wherever you were at, you're never going to forget where you were at that night.